They parked me behind the barricades at my sister's Ivy League graduation, an orange usher vest masking the Coast Guard blues beneath a borrowed blazer. She took the podium, smirked into the mic, and cracked, "My brother dropped out to drive boats." 90 seconds later, every jumbotron went black. Rotor wash shredded the banners, and a Jayhawk helicopter dropped onto the lawn. Rear Admiral Connolly stepped out, saluted the crowd, and called Chief Petty Officer Jack Mercer front and center. 10,000 polite murmurs fell silent as the family chauffeur climbed the stage in full dress blues. 032 Local Princeton University, Commencement Quadrangle. My sister's graduation platform looked like an aircraft carrier flight deck built of bunting and Ivy League banners. Alumni donors shimmered in summer linen. I, meanwhile, wore an orange usher vest 3 sizes too big, hiding the dark blue of my Coast Guard service dress alpha beneath a borrowed blazer. A plastic badge read, "Family Parking, Jack," even though my name is Lawton Jack Mercer, rescue swimmer first class. Mom had texted at dawn, "Please keep a low profile for Miranda's big day." Low profile meant barricades literally. Security clustered unpaid helpers on the outside of a metal fence, so the optics of empty seats never appeared on live stream. I wasn't even inside the enclosure when Miranda strode to the podium. Crimson hood glinting, she scanned the crowd, found my orange vest, and smiled like a cat. "Miranda into mic. And let's thank my brother who sacrificed higher education to, well, drive boats for the Coast Guard." 10,000 polite laughs rippled. My ears burned beneath the borrowed blazer. I gripped the rail until the forge-hot sting of resentment cooled to a familiar steel. 90 seconds later, the giant jumbotrons flanking Nassau Hall went black. A hush fell wide and fast, as if a storm door slammed on the quad. Speakers crackled, feedback howled, then died. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable chop-womp-womp of an MH-60 Jayhawk 3 miles out. Rotor beats travel through the ribs of anyone who's ridden the cable. The bird knifed over Fitzrandolph Gate, students shrieking as mortarboard tassels cycloned. Rotor wash flattened bunting, banners thrashed like distress flags. The Jayhawk dropped onto the grass seams between folding chairs. Orange safety smoke spiraled from its side hatch. 2 petty officers in flight helmets bounded out, forcing the quartet to choke their string intro back into cases. One of them, AO3 Yan, shouldered a loudhailer. "Yan LT Jack Mercer, United States Coast Guard on me." The audience's confusion peaked. Phones, once aimed at the dais, pivoted like a field of radar dishes. Miranda's smile melted, replaced by something brittle. I ducked under the barricade. No one stopped me. The spectacle itself granted clearance. The petty officers buckled a harness over my blazer like they'd rehearsed it. Yan handed me a sealed manila envelope marked Sector New York. Immediate. The pilot raised 2 fingers. We hustle-boarded. Inside. Rotor noise erased the applause outside. Headsets clicked. Pilot LT Briggs. "Sorry for the theatrics. Sir, command said public pickup was unavoidable range. Fuel, storms, me, or politics. Briggs that too." I tore open the envelope. A single line typed in courier. "Maersk tributary, AI's lost. 317 souls, 40 to Guienne, 72 to Guillassau, your lead." A bulk carrier. Full passengers. AIS offline. My ribs tingled as adrenaline gated every petty irritation of the past hour into silence. Altitude 3, 1000 ft. The Jayhawk banked southeast. I could still see the commencement quad, a patch of wrecked color, as if a giant had kicked a confetti cake. On the jumbotron carcasses, the Coast Guard crest now filled blacked-out screens, our public affairs team wasting no time. Briggs piped Sector Sandy Hook onto intercom. The duty OOD confirmed Maersk tributary reported engine fire. DC teams contained flames but lost primary nav control. Their backup AIS transponder broadcast nonsense, lat lon 199 degree in, 888 degree E, spoofed or fried. The computer flagged a known malware string, FIREFLY, same Trojan the intel shop warned about last quarter. Duty OOD sector needs swimmer on deck for immediate assessment. You're closest. Me deadpan closer than Miranda's valedictorian speech. Anyway, FIREFLY was code wrapped to look like a firmware patch for AIS beacons. Once installed, it replaced GPS with synthetic vectors. steering rescue craft onto shoals or commercial shipping into no-go zones. Intelligence traced it to a for-hire group called STORMCAGE. Nobody expected them to hit a passenger-converted bulk carrier. Wave height 4 meters. Wind 28 knots from the southwest. Smoke smudged the sky 30 miles off Fire Island. Radar silhouette of tributary rose through sea mist. Decks stacked with shipping containers repurposed as staterooms. Port list 7 degrees. Not fatal yet. Briggs slid the Jayhawk into a 40ft hover. I double-checked my rescue swimmer rig fins. Mask, sling bag, waterproof tablet containing a custom AIS repeater patch coded by my friend Morales. If FIREFLY was active. Morales' script could deadman switch the transponder and feed raw GPS until shipboard engineers burned the malware out. I stepped off the skid and plummeted the usual 70 feet. Rotor spray shredded the crests into daggers of cold brine. Splashdown stabbed like ice. Then training took over kick. Approach. Ascend Jacob's ladder thrown by deckhands whose faces carried equal parts fear and relief. Chief Engineer Kelly met me at the rail. Grease stripes, smoke smear, eyes bloodshot. Kelly shouting above windfires out, but Nav's drunk helm thinks we're in Mongolia. I followed him through companionways still reeking of melted wiring. The AIS rack looked like a Christmas tree smashed by a sledgehammer. Screens spat red text, position invalid. USB dongle jammed into a diagnostic port, pulsed unhealthy yellow. The dongle carried a shark logo, STORMCAGE's signature. I powered down. Yanked the stick using insulated clamp, never trust enemy USB. Plugged in Morales' repeater patch. The unit rebooted. After a tense 20 seconds, the console chirped GPS lock. Good. Kelly, you just saved 317 passengers from going sightseeing on the reef. Me not yet helm's still blind. Let's push corrected NMEA over local repeaters. Bridge verified correct position in under a minute. Back topside, I waved Briggs for extraction. Passengers crowded railings as the Jayhawk hoisted me. Camera phones out again, second viral clip of the day. Between rotor beats, I caught Miranda's voice from memory, but the roar erased bitterness. Only salt wind remained. Sector Sandy Hook gave vector back, but ordered stop at USCGC Hamilton for debrief. STORMCAGE's fingerprint triggered cyber red. In the cabin. Kelly's USB sat in an evidence bag beside the crumpled usher vest. Two symbols how people see versus what the job demands. Briggs, guess your sister's speech gets a sequel. Me, she can keep the applause, I'll take a live ship. Below, swells marched like lines of gray code. The job is rescue. Not revenge, yet poetic justice whispers in rotor wash. Media will splice my hoist with Miranda's jab. It doesn't matter. 317 hearts now steer true north. I strapped in, exhaled. Reports and hearings await. For now, breathe salt, patch broken signals, and let helicopters roar louder than any podium. 0914 Zulu flight deck. USCGC Hamilton. Rotor blades bled away to silence while the Atlantic rolled gunmetal green around the 418-foot national security cutter. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales, operations boss. Rumor magnet met me with a salute sharp enough to cut anchor chain. Morales, welcome aboard. Mercer, wish it were social. Me, tell me the bite. She handed me a rugged tablet lit cyan in the gray daylight. AIS plots bloomed like constellations. One blip pulsed red off Sandy Hook. Morales' unmarked buoy drifting across the Ambrose inbound lane, broadcasting a garbled AIS safety call every 2 minutes. Same FIREFLY signature that infected the tributary. I scanned the buoy's course. The channel carried freighters deeper drafted than city blocks. One collision during slack tide could clog New York Harbor for a week. 1. Into the rips. 10 minutes later, we blasted down the cutter's port ramp in a 35-foot fast response boat. Twin diesels howling. Petty Officer Chan throttled hard, spray knifed over bow rails. Wind gusted 25 knots. Incoming tide fought the swell. Sculpting pyramid waves. The buoy bobbed ahead. Orange hull gone sickly rust. Solar panel array twitching like an insect wing. RF sniffers in my lap screamed incremental uplink spikes, someone remote querying the buoy. Chan, that thing's talking to shore me or to whoever sails by. 2. Ghost frequency. Morales unslung a rifle-stock microwave disruptor, Morales' personal project. Half legal. All attitude. She toggled charge. The device hummed like a hornet nest. I clipped a lifeline to the gunnel and leaned forward. The buoy listed against chop. Its antenna mast jutted 6 feet. Stenciled numbers had been spray-painted out. A bad actor's fingerprint. Chan nosed the bow until rub rail kissed buoy foam. I leapt, boots slipping on algae. I cinched a tether and popped a hatch. Inside, Raspberry Pi, lithium pack, AIS shield hat blinking amber, a USB LTE dongle pulsed red, me helmet mic unplugging radio. Morales' weight traced the handshake. I sniffed Packet's cell tower ID pointed to an offshore mast, one leased by a research tug called Night Runner. Registry flagged private salvage. Crew of 3. We yanked the LTE stick. Swapped in a Faraday pouch. Morales' disruptor howled. Remote control line went dark. 3. Chase across Whitecaps sector relayed Night Runner's last AIS ping 5 miles south, course northwest, making 12 knots. Chan throttled. The FRC took air off 2 successive rollers. The tug appeared low freeboard. Faded navy paint. Deck stacked with scrap nets. It ran no house flag. Only a flapping tarp. As we closed, its AIS blinked off. Morales radioed Night Runner. "This is Coast Guard. Heave to and prepare for boarding." No reply. Only black diesel smoke. Chan jammed throttles. Wake exploded astern. At 50 yards, Morales fired a flare across the bow. The tug finally throttled neutral. A deckhand raised hands. 4. Boarding and breadcrumbs. We clamped to the tug's starboard. The deck smelled of diesel, stale bait, cold fear. 2 men and a woman, none could produce MMSI docks. Below decks. We found a rack of 6 more Raspy Boys. Shrink-wrapped for wet drop. A laptop showed a dashboard, active AIS ghosts. Projected collision overlays for channel shipping. Morales. They're staging a multi-buoy denial reroute tankers into sandbars. Then swoop salvage fees. STORMCAGE watermark glowed bottom corner. We tagged evidence. Zip-tied crew. Radioed Hamilton for custody detail. 5. Detonation timer. While we cataloged. The woman engineer by Greece laughed. "Engineer, you stopped 1 node, 50 deployed already. Enjoy gridlock." Morales went pale. Sector reports confirmed sporadic AIS dropouts blooming from Sandy Hook down to Barnegat. We need radio silence. Island hop patch. Now. 6. Packet storm. Back aboard Hamilton. The ops center flickered with red alerts. Oil tankers hove to. Ferries stacked like dominoes. Morales slammed a fist. We decided on a counter-flood, inject a clean AIS superframe via VHF DSC piggyback, overwrite FIREFLY across all nodes simultaneously. But we needed a towering emitter to bathe the coast. Only Candidate 1 World Trade's Spire broadcast range, 60 miles. 7. Rooftop repeaters sector coordinated with NYPD Aviation. Within 40 minutes, a Police Bell 429 shuttled Morales. Me and a Pelican case up the Spire's maintenance pad. Wind at 1,350 FT ripped words from throats. We bolted a high-gain whip to the lightning mast and wired in Morales' NOAA patch firmware. Keyed GPS truth packets on loop when power engaged. The whip hummed blue. My handheld sniffer lit as ghost AIS contacts flipped from red to green along the harbor overlay. Tankers reported true bearings. Staten Island ferries resumed. 8. Press at the pier. By dusk, Hoboken news crews filmed Night Runner chained to a Coast Guard pier. Its crew frog-marched into vans. I stayed on the cutter's fantail, uniform stiff with salt and rotor grease. Miranda texted, "Mom wants to know if you're safe and whether you'll speak at my postponed brunch." I stared at Manhattan's skyline antenna, now a silent sword, and typed, "Schedule's fluid. Tell her I'll try." 9. Debrief and warning. Rear Admiral Connolly piped our signal on secure SATCOM. Praise brief. Warning long Connolly STORMCAGE didn't lose, they iterated. Expect buoy clones worldwide. AIS is maritime air. Corrupt it. Choke economies. The war had just begun. 10. Atlantic Vow midnight settled over the cutter like dark epoxy. I leaned on rail, Morales nursing coffee beside me. Morales. Ever think you'd fight code with boats? Me boats. Code. Barricades doesn't matter. We patched the holes. Tide hissed under steel. The beacon at 1 WTC winked blue against inky sky new lighthouse for a data sea. I exhaled rotor memory and let calm fill the void. Tomorrow hearings, firmware audits, more buoys to chase, but tonight the harbor breathed true. Or 4:55 Zulu Atlantic dawn, 18 millimeters east of Sandy Hook. Fog lay thick as trawl net mesh when USCGC Hamilton slowed engines and hove to beside a mile-long line of orange research buoys. The chain belonged to no AA, meant to log shark migrations, but Sector had flagged one unit broadcasting the same FIREFLY malware we'd just fought off the tributary. Lieutenant Commander Morales joined me at the starboard rail. Gray water slapped hull, damp seeped under collar. Morales. We can't lift every buoy, too many. Too fragile. Me. So we go inside the net and hunt the beacon that's reinfecting them. She nodded toward the 26-foot over-the-horizon OTH cutter boat readying astern. Two electronics techs, ET-1 Singh and ET-2 Ramos, loaded Pelican cases of Spectrum gear. I cinched my dry suit neck seal. Water temp 11 degrees. Cold enough for hypothermia inside 20 minutes. 1. Slipstream in the murk. The OTH splashed free. Twin Mercuries growling into the blanket fog. AIS no help every buoy now spat fake MMSI numbers like spam email. Singh's handheld Yagi antenna rode front combing. Its tone rose each time we threaded between floats. 500 yards inside the array, a signal spiked. We idled. Fog-muffled engines until only swell slosh and distant gull shrieks remained. A buoy ahead blinked red instead of no-way blue. Its solar panel bore a fresh spray paint shark STORMCAGE's Joker tag. 2. Water entry. I flipped over the tube gunnel, fins knifing. Visibility 2 meters tops. Seawater tasted of iron filings. The buoy's barnacle-pocked body loomed. Beneath, instead of weighted chain only. Someone had lashed a watertight ammo box to the mooring cable. A coax ran up into the main buoy can. I unsnapped multi-tool, freed 2 zip ties, floated the box to surface. Ramos hauled it in. Inside Raspberry Pi, LTE modem, and a small canister labeled PBN3 lead azide explosive. Pressure plate wired to detonate if anyone pulled the buoy forcibly. Blueprints for sabotage disguised as science. Sing. They rigged our shark net into a minefield. Me and a malware repeater. 2 for 1. 3. Disarm on deck. Back on the OTH, we quarantined the buoy's Pi in a Faraday bag. Explosion risk neutralized by removing the firing battery. Ramos pocketed the block in an EOD can. Signal analysis. The Pi piped compressed updates to a mother node every 20 minutes via LTE IP, traced to an abandoned cannery on the Jersey shore. Morales radio intercept team already alerted. You keep cutting mines, we grab brain. 4. Shark in the fog. We resumed crawl. Fog shifted like curtains, revealing a dorsal fin slicing surface 30 yards off the Atlantic's resident blues, following lunch bells of buoy commotion. The irony wasn't lost. The second modified buoy detonated before we reached it, thud underwater. Geyser of brine erupting. Shockwave slapped hull. Ramos fell. Bruised shoulder. Explosive residue fluoresced orange chemical tracer for lead azide. Someone remote triggered. Burning evidence. 5. Command decision. I hailed. Hamilton. Me saboteur remote detonating nodes. Stop fishing, start jamming. We need high power blanket. Morales patched our radio up to Hamilton's. SPN 43 radar feed. Jury-rigged a broadband noise burst on the buoy LTE frequencies. Within 60 seconds. Data channel flatlined. No more remote kaboom. 6. Dive and sever. We moved faster, clipping explosive canisters, yanking pie boards into galvanized trash can lined with foil. 4 buoys down, 3 to go. Swells built. Wind from offshore storm pushed chop over rails. Singh vomited once, then returned to spectrum scanner without flinch. 7. Mother node. Meanwhile, Coast Guard Tacklet and NJ State Police raided the cannery. Live helmet cam feed back to my HUD-rusted silos. Servers balanced on paint buckets. A diesel generator thrumming. Suspects 2-1 male. 1 female arrested mid-keyboard. Hard drives seized showed AIS displacement plots for every tanker approaching New York Harbor. The SharkNet hack was Phase 1. Phase 2 would spoof migratory shark swarm warnings. Bounce container ships 20 miles south into shoals. 8. Final charge. Last buoy deeper set. We towed an ROV because swell too rough to dive. Camera revealed canister triple the size of earlier charges, enough to rupture a fishing trawler hull if triggered. Remote signal silent thanks to jammer. But fail-safe mercury tilt switch still hot. We used ROV manipulators to clamp the switch, freeze its contacts with insta-chill spray, then released ballast. The buoy rocked. No boom. Success. 9. Cleanup and curveball fog lifted with afternoon sun. Shark array now clean. Explosives and EOD kiln aboard Hamilton. Morales handed me satellite phone. Admiral Connolly online. Connolly outstanding. Bad news, local news choppers caught the mid-fog explosion. They'll spin a panic unless we brief clear. Me, I'll take the podium. 10. Press line back at Sector Pier. I faced cameras still hungry from the graduation fiasco. I explained malware. Condemned eco-terror label STORMCAGE warlike flair. Thanked NOAA interns who flagged the buoy deviation. A reporter asked if I felt vindicated after my sister's jab. I answered rescue doesn't keep score. It just keeps swimming. Morales snorted off mic. We walked pier side by side. Salt wind in face. SharkNet floating harmless beyond horizon. Tomorrow would bring another buoy. Another code exploit. But today the Coast Guard turned sabotage into salvage. And somewhere on campus, Miranda rehearsed a new speech, maybe one with less smug and more respect. 0540 Zulu USCGC, Hamilton Fantail, 40 nm east of Atlantic City. First light bled bruise purple across the horizon as I unzipped the salvaged dry suit still dripping from yesterday's SharkNet op. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales strode past the flight deck nets, clipboard in hand, uniform soaked with coffee and adrenaline. Morales sector just forwarded an SOS from the freighter, Baltic Mercy. Engine fire knocked out power. Their dead stick in a rip current. 1 mile from the shoals at Little Egg Inlet. AIS shows FIREFLY chatter. Me, STORMCAGE, back on schedule. Morales, and we're the only cutter close enough to board before dawn. 2 rescue swimmers, an electronics tech, and a 4-person MSRT boarding team assembled on deck. We loaded 2 Pelican cases, one filled with portable CO2 extinguishers, the other with Morales' patched AIS firmware, NOAA V2 signed and keyed at 0300. Once a helo ride into the rip, the Hamilton's MH-65 Dolphin was already spinning up. Orange paint glowed in deck floods. I clipped harness straps, checked fins, mask, and the waterproof tablet that contained a live firewall update destined for the Mercy's nav rack. Takeoff flung salt air through the open side door. Below, whitecaps shredded as currents smashed against the incoming swell classic rip. Visibility 3 miles. Sea state rough. Wind NE at 22 knots. 2. Smoke on the water. At 200 feet we spotted Baltic Mercy, listing 5 degrees to port. A black scar of smoke venting from the stack. Lifeboats remained inboard, a good sign. Crew wasn't abandoning ship. Strangest detail, 4 research buoys identical to the hijacked shark units bobbed astern. Tether lines trailing like spider silk. Morales swore on intercom. They're using buoy anchors as sea brakes, dragging the freighter into the shoal. Date cord and malware STORMCAGE loves a combo meal. 3. Swimmer splash. We dangled on cable, then hit the drink between hull and a dragging buoy. Swell slammed me against steel. I climbed a Jacob's ladder thrown by a Filipino deckhand whose eyes were wide with panic. Deckhand Phil accent fire and tunnel out, nav crazy. We spin circles. We raced toward the flame locker. Smoke had cleared, but panel lights on the bridge flickered intermittent red. Chief Engineer Oxenen met us under red emergency lamps. Sweat washing soot into trenches on his cheeks. Oxenen fires dead, but helm obeys ghosts. Every time we regain thrust, course veers north. Me bridge running AIS feed Oxenen. Yes, only nav left alive. 4. Bridge of ghosts. The wheelhouse was a disco of alarms. The helm autopilot jerked 5 degrees every 30 seconds. On-screen GPS latline changed by 100 yards, each jerk sensor fusion lies from FIREFLY. I killed circuit breakers, jacked my tablet into the N2K backbone. Morales' NOAA V2 pushed clean GPS plus checksum validation. For 30 breath-holding seconds, monitors blinked, then steadied. Autopilot chirped, manual required perfect. Yet outside, the buoy tethers still pulled port, STORMCAGE's hydrodynamic trap. 5. Tether dive. Chief Oxenden gave us rigging axes. We traced lines to aft bits rope spliced to shock cord, slip knots already sweating under load. I clipped, flipped over rail, fins slicing toward the first buoy. Waves pounded, sense of direction vanished in froth. At buoy, I slashed line, attached a beacon float for later EOD retrieval, then signaled up. 2 more cuts and the last line snapped like piano wire. The ship lurched starboard. Free. 6. Booby trap in the tunnel. While surfacing, I saw orange flicker in shaft alley vents. Morales called via throat mic thermal spike in engine tunnel. STORMCAGE Plan B, disable propulsion if nav hack failed. I sprinted to tunnel. Heat haze blurred. A laptop wired to the engine control unit beeped 30-second countdown in Cyrillic. A small black powder charge was duct taped to the main lube oil filter housing. I yanked laptop cable first, killing the script, then slashed fuse wire to charge. We soaked it with CO2. Clock stopped on 012. 7 Tau line tango. Back on deck. The Hamilton had arrived. Line guns cracked through dawn. Tow hawser snaked to the Mercy's bollard. Tension came up. Our exhausted freighter stabilized. Bow now pointed seaward. 8 Floating evidence. The 4 sabotage buoys bobbed free. Dolphin Helo crew netted 2. The other pair rolled into the rip, tracking south. Morales radioed NOAA to interdict. Each captured buoy carried the shark spray and lead-azide booby traps, plus a 4G modem cycling sims across obscure Baltic carriers STORMCAGE's name tag. 9 Return and reflection. 0730 Zulu aboard Hamilton. Coffee steamed in ops. Admiral Connolly arrived via VTC for hot wash. Connolly Mercy safe. Channel clear. But analysts show 112 similar buoys worldwide. We need a standing patch broadcast beacon net, but for AIS. Morales grinned, already coding. 10 A sister's second speech. Miranda's brunch live stream pinged my phone. Graduation, redo care to appear. I typed maybe after I finished taping sharks. Morales bark laughed. Tell her you saved a freighter. Let the news feed do it, I said, watching the freed Baltic Mercy steam under tow. Gulls spiraling like commas in a sentence about second chances. 7:15 Zulu sickbay, USCGC Hamilton. Silver alginate strips peeled from my shoulder where tether rope had chafed skin raw. Salt crust flaked from my hair. The air smelled of iodine, diesel, and scorched wiring. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales hovered in the doorway. Coffee in one hand, a sealed evidence bag in the other. Inside the bag, the 500-gig hard drive we'd pulled from STORMCAGE's buoy control laptop aboard the tug Night Runner. Morales Rear Admiral Connolly's on SAT-3. Wants a miracle in under an hour. Me miracles bill at overtime. 1. Data dissection. In ops. We cloned the drive. ET-1 Sing spun up an air-gapped workstation. Code hiccuped across dual 32-inch monitors like ECG. Directory, it's like Ghostwave, contained cron scripts that queued satellite uplinks every odd-numbered hour AIS falsification packets wrapped in innocuous weather data. Targets 47. Idle fishing trackers moored to buoys from Cape Cod to Cape Hatteras. Each tracker had a software-defined radio capable of rebroadcasting FIREFLY. Ghostwave STORMCAGE's ocean-wide repeater farm. Morales. They'll turn the coast into a hallucination. Me, unless we jam their jam. 2. Frequency chess. STORMCAGE staggered broadcast windows to dodge FCC sweeps. Sing mapped the sked into a spiral Timex plot. Gaps existed precisely 19 minutes long enough for Coast Guard to push a counterframe. If we talked louder. Problem, we lacked a single antenna tall enough to drown the coastline. Solution chain broadcast through every active lighthouse radio and no AA weather buoy, spoke hub into a Coast Ghost relay. I hated the pun. Morales loved it. 3. Hack ops on deck. We ignited a frenzy comms division, patched R21 coastal repeaters. No AA granted route on their WX towers. FCC issued emergency authority minutes before their lawyers woke. My waterproof tablet became mission seed node. We would inject from the Hamilton's 10 kDAR transmitter, daisy rippling north and south. The relay patch NOAA 3.0 embedded authentication nonce tied to GPS pulse per second. Any spoof without the nonce would null. Farts, fog and steel. 11. Onururd Zulu fog thick as mashed chalk swallowed the ship. We rose to fly patch node onto a shoreline repeater that lacked remote access, a rusting radio mast on Sandy Hook Peninsula. Offline since Hurricane Ida. Dolphin rotor beats thrummed through soup. Visibility maybe a rotor diameter. The skid kissed a corroded catwalk. Morales and I lugged a Pelican case across grating that moaned like whales. A cyan glow pulsed from distant container cranes, ghostly, as if the signal war already rewired the world's color palette. Inside, shack breakers busted. Cobwebbed radios, 1990s vintage. Sing's patchboard pigtailed into cokes. Generator roared after 3 crank attempts. We brought the mast online. Me node alpha hot. Ops bridge received. Beginning countdown to flood packet. 5 packet flood. H0. Hamilton fired the 5 megabyte patch at 25 watts. Nodes answered. Relayed. Amplified. No AA buoys chattered back blue pings. Lighthouses bloomed on spectrum waterfall. Sing's laptop drew green circles along the coast. Radius lines expanding until they overlapped a chainmail shield. 6 STORMCAGE counterstrike. 9 minutes in. Ghost AIS packets resumed STORMCAGE's schedule. But our shield swallowed them. Their CRC mismatched. Nav stations shrugged. On monitor. Red triangles flipped to gray, ignored. Then STORMCAGE escalated. LTE jammers mounted on 2 crab boats began broadcasting white noise near Chesapeake, scrubbing our patch in a black spot 50 kilometers wide. Morales, we need hard stop. 7 Fog Hunter sprint. We diverted heli south, hugging wavetops. The first crabber. Lucky fin. Powered pontoons of mismatched paint. Morales sling hoisted. I rappelled onto aft deck. A DIY mast welded to fishbox sported 4 Yagi antennas and a laptop in Tupperware. Its wallpaper a shark logo. The crew surrendered quick, 3 seasonal deckhands oblivious to payload. Captain red-eyed yelling about easy crypto. We zip-tied, yanked power, confiscated SDR. Second jamming boat spotted us and bolted but collided with a coast pilot launch. Bow crumple. No injuries, just poetic payback. Jammers off air. 8. Full green sweep. At plus 47 minutes, every AIS echo along the eastern seaboard aligned with real GPS. Harbor pilots called clear, tankers resumed, ferry horns blew relief. Sector broadcast all hands stand down. Hamilton deck erupted in whoops, salt spray, confetti. Tiny media wave. I barely changed into dry ODUs when microphones reappeared. ABC begged comment. I offered none. The sea isn't social media. Morales quipped off record. That speech can drive boats. We both laughed too hard. 10 graduation brunch redux. Miranda's brunch delayed again. But mom text-bombed hearts. I promised I'd attend the next one in something other than an orange vest or a wetsuit. That night, BeaconNet servers purred. Ghost AIS traffic flatlined for a few precious hours. The Atlantic was honest, and I slept still smelling rotor wash, but dreaming of quiet water. 1200 Zulu Sector, New York Command Center, Governor's Island. Radar mosaics glowed sickly green as a 984 millibar low crawled up the Jersey coast. The nor'easter's comma tail promised 55-knot gusts and 20-foot seas by nightfall. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales and I stood shoulder to shoulder at the ops pit rail, listening to the weather officer's monotone while graphs bled crimson. But the storm was only half of it. FIREFLY packets had reignited across the band, resurrected by a sibling worm. STORMCAGE V2 Banshee, hidden in cheap marine weather apps. Every time a boater downloaded storm updates, the infection spread. Sector issued UMIB after UMIB. VHF Channel 16 became an auction of panicked voice traffic. Morales, if we wait out this blow, Banshee will rewrite the entire coastal nav grid. Me, then we fight code in the eye wall. 1. Cyclone of spoof. ET1 Sing, mapped infection nodes, 312 vessels, mostly pleasure, and small commercial, now broadcasting nonsense positions. Several outbound tankers plotted collision courses based on the ghost traffic and refused to budge. We needed a single broad-spectrum overwrite louder than the gale. BeaconNet 2.0 could do it if we could seed a temporary floating transmitter inside the storm's radio shadow, riding the same sea that throttled towers ashore. We park a buoy in the riptide, powered by wave action, turn the storm into an amplifier. Morales, turning the enemy's gust into our gain, on brand. 2. Building the storm beacon. In Station Sandy Hook's workshop, we cannibalized parts of surplus WaveNet data buoy, 200-watt RF driver, Tesla battery pack scavenged from a decommissioned patrol EV, and Morales's code pellet flashed onto an SDR. The buoy's mast would flex with wave height, generating piezoelectric pulses. The more violent the ocean, the louder we'd shout clean AIS. Sing Storm estimates 18-foot significant. That's plenty of decibels. Plenty of ways to die, too. 3. Run to the bar. 1930 Zulu. Nor'easter, already lashing sideways sleet. USCGC, Hamilton couldn't cross the shoals at Dead Man's Bar in this swell. So we launched the heavy-weather 47-foot motor lifeboat. Its aluminum hull slammed like artillery on each trough. Morales throttled while I braced the buoy and aft cradle. Spray-blinded, stinging foam tasted coppery. Channel markers disappeared behind white curtains. Only radar and instinct kept us aligned with the inbound rip. 4. Deployment. At the shoal break, we entered phase space waves refracted, stacking into immeasurable walls. The lifeboat's bow pitched 45 degrees. Engines screamed. Morales held position inside a momentary lull. I yanked release pins. Buoy slid, splashed, righted vertiginously, then bobbed like a stubborn cork. Sing. Monitoring from sector. Confirmed telemetry handshake. BeaconNet 2.0 pinged. Checksum good. Wave-generated voltage climbed with each swell. We turned seaward, trying not to broach. Twice the boat surfed sideways. Morales corrected with throttle burps that would make a racing helmsman jealous. 5. Banshee bites back. Within 10 minutes, clean AIS tone rolled north and south green circles on Sing's display. But Banshee responded. Infected apps pushed emergency alerts, urging skippers to disable VHF to save battery. Almost 100 vessels complied, dropping off net. Morales overcome. They're using human fear as a backdoor. Then we use human voice. We patched NOA weather radio with a plain language call. Ignore battery warning STORMCAGE malware. Maintain VHF contact for rescue. The message looped each minute in English, Spanish, Vietnamese. Boats rechecked in. AIS dots reappeared. Crisis bending but unbroken. Sudium, the tug on the breakwater. When we thought the night might hold. A mayday cut through tug Iron Swan, lost steering. 4 crew, drifting toward Rockaway Inlet jetty. An AIS ghost convinced them they had 3 cables clearance. Reality said 40 yards. We were nearest. Morales spun the lifeboat on its quill. Rain horizontal now. Wind 48 knots. The tug's navigation lights surged in the murk, a dying ember heading for Granite Teeth. I pre-rigged tow line. Harnessed. Boat slammed alongside. We tossed monkey fist. Missed. Tossed again. Caught. Winch growled. Just as line came tight, a rogue breaker obliterated visual. I felt the tug's hull yaw under force I imagined could tear steel. Tow line held. Tug pivoted seaward. Grazing jetty with a screech like chalkboard hell. Fenders crushed but hull intact. Crew waved. Silhouettes backlit by deck flood. 7. Beacon overload. Back on approach. Sing shouted into headset. Wave-generated beacon voltage spiked over design spec. piezo stack arcing. If the beacon browned out, it would reboot in factory AIS test mode broadcast garbage for 12 minutes. Too deadly to allow. Only fixed power limiters aboard the buoy housing. Morales, we go back, we dive. 8. Mid-storm dive. We hove starboard of buoy. I clipped tether, slid into black water thick with air bubbles. Waves hurled me underwater, rope leash jerking. On second attempt, I reached the mast, popped access door. Inside, regulator board glowed red over voltage. I yanked main bus, inserted resistor block we'd taped inside wetsuit sleeve. 10 seconds that felt like a month. Repower, board green. Sing confirmed stable voltage, net green. Wave tombstoned me once more, but Morales' skillful throttle retrieved. 9. Eyewall gift. As dawn peeled slate clouds apart. The storm relented. Beacon net sang steady. Banshee traffic cratered antivirus from the sea itself. The buoy would ride weeks, maybe months, an unplanned sentinel forged under pressure. 10. Aftermath and promise. Back at sector docks, reporters again. I declined interview. But Morales relayed one line: "We fight storms with storms." Miranda texted a photo, her brunch plate shaped like a buoy. Caption: "I'm still seasick from your headlines." I laughed, typed "better seas ahead," and meant it. BeaconNet inbox pinged EU Coast Guard asking deployment specs. Our storm baby might scale beyond U.S. shores. For now, fatigue owned my bones. But the harbor's AIS plot gleamed honest green. Helicopters thumped overhead. Not to overshadow a commencement this time, but to escort tankers home on a corridor free of ghosts. La Ritzeur Local Princeton Quadrangle. Commencement Redu. 1 week after the nor'easter, the Princeton Quad looked as though a Hollywood greensman had vacuumed every speck of salt and shame from the grass. Folding chairs gleamed ivory, banners re-ironed. Only the new security cordon hinted at the viral spectacle that hijacked last week's ceremony. My Coast Guard dress blues replaced the orange usher vest. A legitimate guest lanyard hung at my neck. Yet I stood on the perimeter again by choice. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales loitered near a camera crane pretending to adjust her tie. ET-1 Singh blended with stage crew, a Pelican case doubling as cable box. The quad wasn't just commencement, it was bait. 2 days earlier, Federal Forensics traced Banshee's update server to a condo in Hoboken, rented under shell company Harbor Dynamics LLC. Leaseholder a cybersecurity consultant named Elias Tarr, none other than my sister Miranda's former TA. He'd posted a blog mocking military Neanderthals patching the sea. DHS suspected Tarr would attempt one final humiliation, a live feed hack during Miranda's makeup speech. We planned to let him try. 1. The Trojan Jumbotron. Commencement marched brass ensemble. Faculty procession. New valedictorian remarks polished to within microns. Miranda stood behind the lectern, powdered calm. But I saw tension in the clutch of her diploma folder. Her joke quota 0. Singh's covert radio crackled RF anomaly East Tower, same Banshee handshake, port 65500 targeting LED mux. Morales replied, "Hold trigger, let him schedule payload." I kept eyes on the Jumbotron behind Miranda. If Tarr deployed malware, it would freeze her face into meme fodder, then display ghost AIS coordinates reading "rescue me" or worse. Sewer capture sequence. RF triangulation plotted to a black Sprinter van idling near the art museum. DHS tacklet in plain polos boxed the van. 2 agents popped side door. Tarr hunched over a drone console. LTE antennas suction cupped to window. He tried to yank a thumb drive. Morales' team tasered first. Questions later. Singh's waveform died. Payload never reached checksum. Jumbotron safe. 3. Unexpected backup hacker. But a ripple remained. Second signal. Weaker. Piggybacking campus Wi-Fi. Origin press riser. I sprinted. Parting families with Coast Guard, excuse me. A man in generic photo vest thumbed code on Raspberry Pi tethered to DSLR battery. He saw my silhouette too late. I shoulder checked. Pi clattered. He swung monopod. I blocked. Twisted wrist. Cuffs clicked. Press riser erupted in startled gasps. Miranda paused mid-sentence. Eyes met mine. Question. Fear. Relief. Flicker book fast. She regained composure, continued her speech about resilience in a fractured world. Our table turned. Commencement concluded. I expected Miranda to vanish behind alumni donors. Instead, she walked straight toward us as tacklet loaded hackers into vans. "Miranda Jack, this your show too. Me just patching more holes," she exhaled. "I owe you an apology." The joke. I raised a hand. Water under the rotors, but I could use a translator. These guests still think the Coast Guard plays taxi. She laughed, genuine, small. Brunch mom's warming quiche again. If Morales can spare me. 5. The sister debrief. At Nassau Hall Salon, over mismatched teacups, I summarized the month Firefly, STORMCAGE, Ghost Buoys, Nor'easter Beacon. Miranda listened, jaw tight. Miranda Elias pitched his capstone cybersecurity startup to me. I ghosted him, didn't know he'd ghost half the coast. She faced Mom and said the words I thought tectonic plates would shift before she uttered, "My brother didn't drop out. He deployed." Mom cried happy tears into quiche. 6. Arraignment and aftershock. By evening, Elias Tarr's booking photo lit evening news. DOJ charged him with maritime cyber terror. Anchor desks replayed rotor wash memes side by side with his perp walk. BeaconNet traffic surged. EU and Canada announced joint adoption. Morales texted kids' table goes international. 7 reward or reprisal. 3 days later, Rear Admiral Connolly called Coast Guard considering meritorious promotion. I demurred until crew citations included Morales, Singh, and the lifeboat teams. She agreed. 8. Quiet on Sandy Hook. That weekend I walked Sandy Hook Light. The storm beacon still bobbed offshore. Now permanent ATON aid to navigation ID CG beacon 001. Its AIS packet carried a line of metadata patched by Mercer, Morales, Singh. Gulls screeched as if reading. My phone buzzed Miranda selfie at graduate orientation she'd deferred corporate to study maritime law. Captioned, "Some holes need lawyers." I typed back, "Copy that, semper paratus." Stars pricked dusk. No ghosts whispered across the water. For the first time since the barricades, calm felt honest. 6:45 local Pier 86 Intrepid Sea Airspace Museum. Summer haze drifted above the Hudson like half-dreamt steam. Vice Admiral Celia Grant used the decommissioned Carrier Museum as backdrop for a press conference announcing Beacon Net 2.0 rollout along the entire eastern seaboard. Morales, Singh. And I flanked her in tropical blue short sleeves. Feeling equal parts pride and dread, bureaucratic victory often lured fresh enemies. Grant clicked a remote map of green circles hugging coastline. 0 ghost signals for 72 hours, she said. Media clapped. I scanned the water for contradictory ripples. None so far. 1. Intel curveball. 20 minutes later, intelligence liaison LT Durham cornered us below deck next to the SR-71 exhibit. Durham intercepted chatter. STORMCAGE planning. Hudson disruption codename Hudson 0 tonight. Me target Durham. Likely the hydro plants that power beacon net backbone. The hydro plants, 75% of the net's redundant feed sat upriver at Stony Point. If STORMCAGE crippled them during peak summer load, beacon net would drop. Ghost AIS could flood back before utilities rerouted. 2. Rapid response tasking. Admiral Grant authorized a joint Coast Guard FBI quick strike. Hamilton, steamed upriver, escorted by NYPD Harbor and a DHS UAV. Morales prepped a mobile beacon hotspot suitcase-size VHF-UHF emitter with Starlink backhaul. Morales, if the grid falls, we plug the hole from a parking lot. 3. Stony Point recon. Stony Point hydro plant was all concrete angles and humming turbines. Plant security chief Torres insisted sensors untouched, but Singh's handheld spectrum scanner lit red near intake sluice. We traced a hidden LTE router behind a service hatch, antenna snaking to waterline. Divers splashed. They surfaced with a watertight Pelican case magnet clamped to the penstock. Inside, Raspberry Pi. 2 kilos of C4 hydrophone trigger keyed to frequency sweep used by beacon net pings. Sabotage would blow intake the moment we broadcast an integrity check. Ms. STORMCAGE turned our heartbeat into a detonator. 4. Clock starts. FBI EOD team diffused C4, but LTE modem kept polling for arming code. We cloned it, traced upstream IP to an Airbnb loft in Beacon. NY. Tacklet loaded into Black Hawk. Morales and I hitched along. 5. Loft raid. 10-minute helo hop over river corridor, blurring slate and pine. Loft on Main Street above craft beer bar. False facade of podcast studio. Inside multi-monitor rig streaming power grid, SCADA dashboards and beacon net map. Perp Aryalev Kolov. Ex-electrical engineer fired after crypto mining in utility closets. She brandished taser. Morales disarmed with coffee tumbler to wrist. Laptop auto-destruct script triggered Singh yanked power. We imaged RAM in 5 seconds. 6. Kolov's gambit. Interrogation quick. Kolov bragged. Stony Point tripwire was decoy. Real kill switch nested in downstream substation. Set to open breakers and black start cyber chaos if net frequency deviated 0.2 Hz. Grid ops confirmed unknown SCADA VIPs inserted. Origin hidden. Countdown evening peak. 4 hours. 7. Gridlocked. Coast Guard had no jurisdiction inside utility SCADA. Morales suggested a field overlay deploy mobile beacon to substation grounds. Saturate with GPS-timed holding frame. Freezing breaker states regardless of remote command. Utility brass balked FCC. Liability. Admiral Grant bulldozed. You lose beacon net. You lose maritime commerce. Pick your liability. 8. Deployment dash. Fleetfoot drive an unmarked van. Mobile beacons strapped in cargo bay like a nuke. Thunderstorms brewed. Lightning flickered purple behind Catskills ridges. We arrived as shift changed. I climbed steel lattice tower, bolted whip antenna, lugged 40 lb battery while drizzle slicked rungs. Sing synced beacon to atomic time, Morales fired up hold frame broadcast, substation breakers locked manual, grid frequency stabilized. 9. Breach and counter breach. Minutes later, Kolov's hidden PLC script triggered. SCADA consoles flashed remote open commands. Manual lockouts held, breakers shrugged. Beacon net remained green. Kolov, watching via smuggled phone inside FBI van, cursed in Bulgarian. Morales smirked. Ghost busted. 10. Press calm, internal storm. By midnight, Hudson lights twinkled normal as ever. Admiral Grant's office released statement, Beacon net withstood attempted cyber-physical sabotage. Newspapers hailed zero downtime. I knew better, STORMCAGE already studying our mobile beacon. Next, they'd mimic it. 11. Atlantic Beacon Net 2.1. Back on Hamilton, Morales unveiled code for rolling key rotation keyed to tide table's unpredictable salt time. We named it Riptide Shuffle. Sing cracked seltzer cans. 12. Family message. Miranda texted, Mom says power stayed on for her quiche. Credit you me, credit the coast. She replied with lighthouse emoji. I stepped on deck. Hudson, T. Brown beneath stars. Beacon net pinged healthy. For the first time, I sensed STORMCAGE slinking to deeper water. Let them. We just made the river our firewall. 06, Duro Zulu Joint Task Force Riptide HQ, Battery Park. Sunrise molten bronze on New York Harbor. Reporters corralled behind velvet rope. Rear Admiral Connolly clasped a Coast Guard Commendation Medal over Morales' chest. I tried to hide second row, but Senator May Lee beckoned. Senator 31 thwarted maritime hacks in 11 months. What's next? Lieutenant see me Mike patching faster than they can poke. She laughed. Cameras flashed. Harbor tug horns marked approval. Saw global expansion. Beacon Net 2.1 patched across Canada and EU. Singapore called. NATO signed MOU. We added Riptide Shuffle encryption salt tied to lunar tidal harmonics key changes twice a day. Predictable to math, yet random to attackers. STORMCAGE chatter waned. Darknet ads hawked AIS chaos, but return customers ghosted. 2. The Canary Drop. 2 weeks of peace snapped Canary Islands VTS flagged AIS ghosts steering a cruise liner off Las Palmas. Payload identical to FIREFLY Banshee, but new variant Sea Strike. This one attacked ECDIS charts. ICS Intercoastal Shield requested USCG detachment to assist. Morales and I flew C-17 with Pelican crates of beacon seating gear. Atlantic Beacon Net went interoceanic. 3. Cape Hatteras Cutter Race. En route. Sector North Carolina declared Mayday cluster rogue wave triggered by offshore sandbar collapse. 3 sailboats capsized, a research cutter missing. USCGC Cyprus nearest. But Beacon Net node south of Hatteras offline, likely Sea Strike testbed. Admiral rerouted our C-17 to Elizabeth City Air Station. We swapped to Jayhawk. Raced Dark Thunder Shelf. 4 broken node. Downed node was wave-powered buoy. ET-1 Sing remote-scoped firmware replaced by bootloader that looped distress AIS to bait rescue craft into the rogue wave field. Rescue geometry is sacred. STORMCAGE weaponized it. Jayhawk hovered 60ft. I sling-dropped with float bag. Replaced SDR board mid-swell. Node rebooted. AIS corrected. Cyprus. Navigated safe corridor. Found cutter rolled but intact. Crew alive in survival suits. For STORMCAGE's last broadcast. Intercepted sat phone from unknown flagged market dead. Beacon unstoppable. Liquidate. STORMCAGE investors pulling plug. 6 Senate oversight. Back in D.C., Senate Commerce grilled me on cost. I showed cost of a single grounded container ship $500 REM per day. Beacon net budget $90 REM. Committee approved permanence. Morales presented stats 99.87% AIS integrity since beacon-driven patch cycle. Applause across factions, rare weather. 7. Promotion offer. Rear Admiral Connolly offered me early promotion to LCDR Plus desk at HQ Cyber. I requested field billet training new beacon teams. Approved Atlantic Beacon School stood up at Cape May. 8. Miranda's pivot. Miranda passed bar exam. Joined No AA Council on Maritime Cyber Law. Mom threw brunch free of quiche fiascos. No barricades. No rotor wash. Just stories. Miranda toasted. To boats that drive data, and brothers who drive boats. We clinked mugs. 9. Legacy boy. Week later, Sector installed, CG Beacon 001 plaque, first storm beacon. Morales slipped sticker cartoon kid at table passing duct tape to lighthouse. Kids table meme now CG recruitment poster. 10. Rogue wave epilogue. Cape Hatteras surf whispered under moon. I walked the beach after graduation of first beacon class 30 specialists. Average age 22. Hunger bright in eyes. Morales joined. 2 coffees steaming. Morales feeling obsolete. Me feeling relieved. A rogue tide surged. Washed foam over boots. Retreated. I saluted empty horizon, no ghosts. Only honest AIS pings blinking from buoy chains. Me whisper semper paratus, kids. The table is yours. 1922 local Sandy Hook light, midsummer twilight. The lighthouse that once guided immigrant steamers now blinked blue-white beacon net pings into a sky the color of burned peach skin. Lieutenant Commander Avery Morales and I leaned against the rail of a freshly painted 47-foot motor lifeboat. Salt wind lifting fatigue from our shoulders. Morales' first night all month with no red flags on the dashboard. Me Latin Jack Mercer. Quiet water is louder once you've heard ghosts. Below. Breakers whispered over the bar. Above. CG Beacon 001's whip antenna flicked an LED heartbeat 1-second pulse of honest AIS. 1. A ping in the dark. At 19:30, the radio hissed, pan pan, pan pan, sailing vessel. Calanthe, dismasted. 2 souls, 1 kilometer east of Gateway Buoy, routine rescue. But tonight, every call felt epilogue-worthy. Sector assigned our MLB. Floodlights carved silver onto swell. We reached Calanthe in 20 minutes. Her rig looked like a snapped spine against sunset. Crew unharmed, haul-in smooth. Their AIS still live. Beacon packet intact. Proof that the chain held. Morales towed them toward Liberty Landing. I manned helm, eyes bouncing between compass and skyline, now timer marked by beacons we birthed. 2. Dinner at 100 meters. Back at dock. A modest party assembled under strings of warm LEDs, Admiral Celia Grant, Rear Admiral Connolly, Senator May Lee, even my sister Miranda wearing a no AA lapel pin, tin trays of lobster rolls steamed, no podiums, just folding tables, kids' table upgraded. Grant tapped glass. Tonight, Beacon Net transitions to Coast Guard mission. Set 11 permanent. Applause. Morales winked. Connolly pinned a silver-plated buoy insignia to Morales's collar, then to mine. For creating the quiet we forgot to value. Cameras absent by decree. This commendation was for us. Miranda asked to say a word. Jack used to swear the sea was code and code was sea. I finally understand. She raised iced tea. We clinked. For a unexpected envelope. Durham arrived late, suit damp from ferry spray, carrying manila envelope stamped top secret. He whispered to Grant, her eyebrow arched. Grant to us Mars Beacon prototype just cleared JPL review. They want Jack and Morales on a 6-month liaison to NASA. I laughed. From boys to space, Morales's eyes sparkled, same principle patch the void. We agreed in one glance, adventure accepted. 4. Training the next wave. But first, our cadet class. Cape May's Beacon School graduated its 2nd cohort next morning, 40 recruits. Average age 21. Tattoos of little lighthouses peeking under dress blues. I gave keynote. Rescue doesn't keep score, it keeps swimming. Code is water shape it, but never underestimate current. They marched past saluting platform, each tapping a ceremonial Raspberry Pi onto a brass anvil, symbolic destruction of the old ghost code. Yet them storm cages fade out. Interpol bulletins confirmed last major STORMCAGE wallet drained, founder traced to Jakarta cyber cafe. Arrested without fanfare, no big showdown, just fatigue of a network starved for buyers. Evil seldom ends with bang at times out. We visited secure evidence locker racks of Shark Tag buoys, LTE modems, the orange usher vest I once wore. Morales suggested donating vest to Coast Guard Museum. I preferred combustion. We compromised exhibit titled From Shame to Shield. Vest beneath encased beacon antenna. 6. Old ghost, new course. 2 nights before NASA departure, I returned to Princeton Quad, empty except cicadas. I strolled the path where barricades once penned me. In moonlight. Metal fence still bore scratches from rotor wash. I left a sticker of kid passing duct tape on the rail. Whispered thanks to the embarrassment that ignited the saga. 7 at Launchpad 39A visit. Florida heat in September. Morales and I toured Kennedy. Stood beneath Falcon Heavy-derived upper stage fitted with Mars Beacon A-pod. Engineers asked if sea beacon protocols would survive solar storms. We shrugged, then started coding salt time formulas for CME variants. Rescue keeps swimming. 8 at quiet water. Clear signal. Back north. Final patrol a sunset SAR drill off Montauk. Water flat as lithium glass. Beacon nodes pinged steady. I cut engines. Let lifeboat drift. Morales hear that? Me nothing? Morales best song on the ocean? Handoff papers signed next morning. Our successors to my joy were 2 cadets from 1st Beacon class. 9 family brunch epilogue. Miranda hosted brunch at Coastal Cafe No Quiche. But clam chowder. Mom toasted to children who rescue the world in ways parents never imagined. Dad nodded. Rare smile. I gifted Miranda a buoy antenna paperweight etched honest water. 10. Coda over calm water. Departure day. Morales and I boarded C-130 bound Houston for NASA onboarding. As wheels lifted, I looked down beacon chain dotted coastline like Morse code spelling safety. In cabin hush. Morales dozed. I typed final log on tablet. Status Atlantic secured. Threats adapt, but so will we. Horizon unbroken. Signal clean. Semper Paratus. Jet banked. Sunlight haloed the wing. Below, CG Beacon 01 flickered one last wink permission to explore farther tides.